Hello there everyone, Nubkeks here, and in today's video we're looking at the Mistweaver Monk on the Shadowlands beta for World of Warcraft. We looked at Windwalker and Brewmaster over the last couple of days, and we've also seen several classes in Spec so far, and we'll be looking at every single spec, every single class in the game here on the channel, so I do hope you'll enjoy that. Before we dive into the gameplay, it is worth noting that as of, well, just before this recording, the public test realm, it's up, it's live. You can jump on and you can actually test these changes on that realm. It's public, it's open to anyone. So you can test out some of these changes yourselves in-game on the test realm if you want to. So I encourage you to do that. And yeah, let's go look at the monk though. Let's see how Mistweaver's looking. Alright guys, and here we are in-game on the beta. And how I want to start off this video, much like we've done for the last few specs we've looked at, I want to give you a quick refresher, a quick recap of what the core gameplay of the Mistweaver Monk is all about, you know, especially for people who are looking to pick up a new class, or people who've, you know, taken a break from Mistweaver recently and just want to get back up to speed with where things are at. Alright, so let's look at this. Right, obviously we're a healer, so let's look at how we actually do healing. Luckily, the Mistweaver I would actually describe as a pretty straightforward healer. Everything sort of fits in together very naturally, and I think you guys should be able to understand it quite easily. The first thing to look at is Vivify. This is like your main heal, alright? And it's the equivalent of Flash Heal for lots of other classes. So it's very fast cast, 1.3 seconds. Costs 664 mana. It's quite expensive, much like a flash heal. It causes a surge of invigorating mists, healing the target for 786, and also will heal all allies with your renewing mist active for 576. What's this renewing mist thing? Well, this is the other very core part of our healing kit. It's renewing mist. This only costs 350 mana. Again, this is all scaled for level 53 right now, which has a 9-second recharge, has 2 charges. You surround the target with healing mists, restoring 1,400 health over 20 seconds. And this is a fun thing about this, makes it very easy to use. If Renewing Mist heals a target past maximum health, it will travel to another injured ally within 20 yards. So it's a very smart heal. Will jump around your party as needed, which is cool. So again, we have a combo there where if we put Renewing Mist on somebody, like Renewing Mist on myself, if I heal myself with Vivify, it will do the Vivify healing, will also heal me for an additional chunk because I have Renewing Mists. And again, let's say there's 5 people in the party, and I've got Renewing Mists on 3 of them. If I heal even the 5th guy who doesn't have Renewing Mists on him, it will heal him for the 786, and it will heal each of the other 3 for the 576 each, because they have Renewing Mists on them. So yeah, there's a lot of cleave that builds into that, which is cool. We also have a heal called Enveloping Mist. This costs 972 mana, so it's very expensive, has a 1.8 second cast, a bit longer cast time. This wraps the target in healing mists, healing for okay, cool. I was just checking I didn't have a talent to affect this. Healing for 2,248 over 6 seconds, and increasing healing received from your other spells by 30%. So this is like your big single target heal. This is when someone's taking a ton of damage. You want to slap this on them. It's a massive heal over the 6 seconds, and it's also going to up all the subsequent healing you do to them. But it does burn through your mana very quickly. In fact, just generally speaking, Windwalker can burn through their mana very fast. And then the other part of this puzzle is Soothing Mist. This is a channeled ability. Are you your Horde? Oh, unlucky. Unlucky. I was hoping I could show you the channel effect. But Soothing Mist, it's 40-yard range, and you just channel, long channel, as you can see. Heals the target for 3,000 health over 7.2 seconds, while channeling, Enveloping Mist, and Vivify may be cast instantly on the target, which is kind of cool, right? Kind of cool. So, for example, if I am in a lot of danger, okay, like mega single target healing, put Renewing Mist on myself, I can channel Soothing Mist, I'll pop Enveloping Mist, and then I can start spamming my Vivify. I'm spamming Vivify right now, and you can see, like, this is churning through my mana. I just spent 20% of my mana in, like, 7 seconds. It's a mega expenditure, but I've just done an absolute ton of single target healing. Then, for AoE healing, you know, we just have one major button here, and that's Essence Font. So this is a 12-second cooldown, costs 1,167 mana, so it is our most expensive spell, just ever so slightly, right? You unleash a rapid twirl of healing bolts at up to 6 allies within 30 yards every 0.9 seconds for 2.7 seconds. Each bolt heals a target for 263, plus an additional 102 over 8 seconds. And then we'll come to the Gust of Mist in a second here. We'll heal affected targets twice, castable while moving. So you can move while you're casting this, which is cool. You have this thing. It's not showing anything because we have no allied targets nearby, but you'll see very visual, all these bolts shoot out. And this is your AoE heal, right? You want to do AoE healing, your whole group's in danger, you're going to cast Essence Font. Let us touch on, what is this? I've mentioned a couple of times now, the Gust of Mists. This is our mastery. And how this works is whenever we cast Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, or Vivify on a target, it will do an additional instant heal on that target. At this particular gear level, with this much mastery, it's going to heal them for 505. So this is quite obviously a big additional chunk of healing. And yeah, just again, whenever you pop Renewing Mist on them, a nice little bit of instant healing. Whenever you pop, you know, every time you Vivify somebody, not like, for example, if I put Renewing Mist on someone, if I heal them with Vivify, it's going to heal them for the 786 of Vivify. If they have Renewing Mist, it's going to cleave them for the 576 extra healing, and then it will also trigger my Gust of Mist for another 505 healing. Cool. And again, going back to Essence Font, the Essence Font puts a heal over time, and while that heal over time is on, if I heal myself, it's actually going to proc my my Gust of Mist will heal twice. So instead of, you know, doing the Vivify heal and doing 505, it's instead going to do, you know, 1010 in this case, while I have that Essence Font heal on. So again, in AoE, obviously in a dungeon, you're going to have the Essence Font hot on everybody after you press Essence Font, but like in a raid, you can kind of like snipe out the people with Essence Font and prioritize healing them because you get more value out of your mastery, like that sort of thing. Oh, I forgot to mention, actually, before I move on, that your mastery also works with Soothing Mist, right? Each heal of Soothing Mist has a chance to cause Gust of Mist on the target. Now, the way this actually works is that during this channel, you can see it here, it's going to tick several times. I think it ticks like 8 times or something like that. You can count them up if you want. But the way this works is that it will the game will roll a dice. Like when you cast Soothing Mist, it rolls a dice, and it will assign one of those ticks to proc your Gust of Mist, and you don't know which one it is. It's entirely random. Essentially, the sort of the gameplay aspect of this is that, generally speaking, this means that you don't really want to cast Soothing Mist for just like a couple of seconds and then cancel out. That can be kind of a waste. That, generally speaking, it's most efficient to only really use Soothing Mist in a situation where you're actually going to channel most of the channel, like 70% plus of the channel, into somebody, like when they really need healing. That's when it's going to be most valuable. And you put those little pieces together, and that is going to be your core healing rotation. My weak core is here to give you a little bit of an idea, right? You're going to be keeping your Renewing Mist charges rolling, always a charge rolling, and just pop them on whoever needs healing. They'll bounce around themselves, and you know, if somebody gets healed to max health. So just keep those charges rolling. You know, if multiple people need healing, throw out a couple. If somebody needs spot healing, you'll start spot healing them with Vivify, and it will naturally cleave onto the people with Renewing Mist on them as well. If somebody is taking a moderate amount of single target damage, you can throw an Enveloping Mist on them too if they're going to need that. If someone's taking a severe amount of single target damage, like continued, like a tank is getting trucked or something, you can start to channel Soothing Mist on them, and you can pop Enveloping Mist on them and keep channeling, and you can spam those instant cast Vivifies in on the Soothing Mist target as well if they really need it. Like, you can do a ton of single target healing, so if that's ever needed, you can do that. And then, of course, if there's going to be group-wide damage, party-wide damage, you're going to channel your Essence Font. And yeah, I mean, that's the very, very basic core of the rotation. It's, like I said, it's very simple, it's very straightforward, but it all sort of meshes together and makes sense. Now, we have a few other abilities as well. So, big healing cooldowns. Let's look at those very quickly. Life Cocoon, this is your single target. External, right? You cast this on anybody, 2-minute cooldown. Encases the target in a cocoon of chi energy for 12 seconds, absorbing about 8,000 damage. So again, as a healing class right now, I have about 13,000 health. So that shield is massive. Not as good on a tank, obviously. And it also increases all healing over time received by 50%. So the healing from your Renewing Mist, the healing from your Enveloping Mist, you can top people up very easily with this if needed. Though they're probably fairly safe. Like, a DPS player should be fairly safe with a Life Cocoon on them. We also have Revival. This was our main healing cooldown in BFA. So it's a 3-minute cooldown, 700 mana, instant cast, instantly heal all party and raid members within 40 yards for 1,700, and also clears them of all harmful, magical, poison, and disease effects. So it's not a great healing cooldown in terms of the healing. You know, it's like casting a couple of Vivifies on everybody, or maybe actually just like casting one Vivify on them if you add on the mastery healing. It's only slightly more powerful than that. But yeah, then it's also the group-wide Dispel, which can be quite useful. But it's one of the weaker healing cooldowns in the game. We have a new healing cooldown, which I'll cover more in the news section, but it's Invoke Yu'lon, the Jade Serpent, which is another 3-minute cooldown, lasts for 25 seconds, and we'll just go around and keep healing people. And there's a talent also that replaces that. We'll cover that when we get there. Your Dispel will dispel magic, poison, and disease effects, so that's awesome. You have a taunt if you need to use that. One cooldown that's going to be kind of going all the way through your core kit is Thunder Focus T. It's a 30-second cooldown, and this will power up your next spell, so you kind of want to use this on cooldown. It will make Enveloping Mist instantly heal for an additional 1,500, so that's a very substantial big single target heal if you need massive single target healing. It will increase Renewing Mist duration by 10 seconds, so that's really good. Make it last 30 seconds. Again, very good for getting just blanket coverage of your party with Renewing Mist when there's AoE damage coming in, because again, for every target with Renewing Mist on them, when you use a Vivify, it will heal them as well, so that's really good, and that's probably the most common way you use it in a raid. You can make a Vivify cost no mana, or you can lower the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick. We'll come to the DPS stuff in a second. Very quickly, the other things we've got, you have Roll, 20-second recharge, 2 charges, that's your main movement thing. You've got Paralysis, which is 20-yard range, 45-second cooldown in cap. Oh, we have an AoE stun with Leg Sweep. Oh yeah, of course, another movement thing. You can put down a Transcendence, and then you can transfer a 40-yard range to your Transcendence point, and it will go to the new place you put it. You can obviously recast the Transcendence. You can do that every 45 seconds. I think that's all the core stuff in our kit. I think I've covered everything. There's a couple of things you'll obviously notice I didn't cover that are new. Oh, your core defensive cooldown is Fortifying Brew. 2-minute cooldown. Gives you 15% max health, 15% more current health, and reduces damage taken by 15% for 15 seconds. So 15, 15, 15. Slightly nerfed from BFA. In terms of your damage then, because obviously that's very important for a healer, is how do you do damage? Your main way of doing damage is Rising Sun Kick. It's an 11-second cooldown, kick upwards, doing 1,132 physical damage. Obviously, physical damage reduced by armor. And then this passive is key to doing damage, right? Teachings of the Monastery, Tiger Palm. So Tiger Palm, we could just spam, and then we have Blackout Kick, which has a short cooldown. So Blackout Kick with the short cooldown, they both are free. Does 446 physical damage. Tiger Palm does 156 physical damage. But Tiger Palm gives you a stack of Teachings of the Monastery. And again, you can see the stacks being tracked here or up here. Lasts for 20 seconds. Each one of these stacks will be an additional Blackout Kick when you press Blackout Kick. So with 3 stacks of Teachings of the Monastery, instead of doing 1 Blackout Kick, I'm going to do 4. And then on top of that, Blackout Kick will also have a 15% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Rising Sun Kick. So I'll go in, I'll Rising Sun Kick, I'll do my 3 Tiger Palms, I'll do my Blackout Kick. We got a reset in the Tiger Kick there, very nice. And yeah, that's sort of the rhythm. There's a very a unique rhythm to that DPS. You're not going to get the reset every time, about half the time, roughly. And you can obviously do some stuff like, you know, you could be... you could have to stop and actually heal people, you know, because you're a healer in between this. So, for example, I might have to throw out this. I might have to throw out a Vivify, and then I'll go like, okay, cool. So I'll Rising Sun Kick now. I've saved up my 3 things. I'll fire them off. And there I didn't get the reset, but if I had got a reset, lots of cooldown reduction. Right, so that's roughly speaking that idea. And then we also have Spinning Crane Kick, which is spammable AoE damage. Light amount of AoE damage, 370 to up to 6 enemies within 8 yards. And then you do have Crackling Jade Lightning. It's better for you than for other monk specs. This does 800 damage over 3.6 seconds. So you can do this at range, which can be a perk if you can't get into melee for whatever reason. It probably does about half as much DPS as doing your actual melee rotation. And you can get mana back with some talents and stuff like that in your melee rotation. But yeah, that is the core of the Mistweaver. I hope that was helpful for you. Like I said, I think it's a very simple, sort of straightforward healer. The stuff sort of meshes together, I think, in a pretty intuitive way. And yeah, there you go. Let's check out the stuff that's new, though, and some of the stuff that I left out here. Let's go look at that. Okay, guys, so what is coming that is new for the Mistweaver in Shadowlands? So for your basic kit, for your core abilities that you're going to get just by default, the first big thing you're going to get is Invoke Yu'lon, the Jade Serpent. This it's just an instant cast ability with a 3-minute cooldown. You summon an effigy of Yu'lon, the Jade Serpent, for 25 seconds. Interesting enough, look at that. For the title, it's YUL''ON, but in the text it says YU''LON. I'm gonna bug report that. Look at me go. Best beta tester ever. Where was I? That's right. Okay, invoke Yu'lon. So it lasts for 25 seconds, and it's going to heal nearby allies with Celestial Breath for 364. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get it to work here properly. Let me see. Oh, maybe. Yeah, we got humans. So what I want you to imagine you're a Mr. Pandaria. Imagine the serenity. Imagine just, that feeling of peace, of being at one with the world, right? And just, imagine Yu'lon the dragon just elegantly flying overhead, just the essence of elegance, serenity, and sophistication. We're going to summon in Yu'lon now. Let's go. Woo! So, yeah, I think this is just hilarious, right? Yu'lon, Yu'lon, she's changed since her Mr. Pandaria days, right? She has just been binging Sonic the Hedgehog games since then, her favorite being Shadow the Hedgehog. She's really gone off the deep end. So that's Invoke Yu'lon. The animation's a little bit silly. Oh man, that's such a laugh. Sorry, I have fun with that. Okay, another new ability then. We have Touch of Death and then 3-minute cooldown. Instant cast. You exploit the enemy target's weakest point, instantly killing creatures if they have less health than you. Against players or against elites or bosses. You can only use it when they're under 15% health, and it will do damage equal to 35% of your maximum health. So this is a really big chunk of damage on a 3-minute cooldown. Very satisfying to play without world questing, satisfying in dungeons, satisfying against bosses, PvP. It's just fun. It's just a really nice little bonus, a little sort of utility perk. Very, very cool to have that one coming in. Next up, this is, I guess, supposed to be part of your core healing rotation, though yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is properly implemented for really any of the monk specs yet. Expel Harm, 15-second cooldown, costs 800 mana. So, it does cost more than a Vivify. And it will heal you for 561 and do 10% of the amount healed as nature damage to an enemy, a single enemy within 8 yards. So, I mean, it's gonna do 56 damage. Like, my melee attack does 287, Like, Rising Sun Kick does 800. So, not getting overly hyped, I'm going to be honest with you, about doing 56 damage. It also is a tiny amount of healing and on a cooldown for a hefty mana cost. There is a rank 2 of this ability. I don't believe it even shows in the spellbook properly. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. There's a rank 2 anyway. In fact, it might be, oops. Let me see. Let me just explain it to you. So, rank 2 lets you cast this while you're channeling Soothing Mists. And then it will not only heal you, but it will also replicate the effect on whoever you're channeling Soothing Mists on. So I obviously can't, imagine I put this on the tank. If I do Expel Harm, there you go. It is working. You can see it actually is working. It's going to Expel Harm me, and it'll also Expel Harm the tank. Again, this does not, as far as I know, it certainly doesn't say it does. It doesn't trigger your mastery. So I don't know. It's still rubbish. I don't know why you would cast this instead of casting Vivify. It's just kind of weird. So much like all the monk specs, I really think this is pending tuning. But this may end up being a good and useful part of your healing rotation. I think that's the intent, but at least for right now, it is not. Okay, that's actually it then. In terms of the baseline changes for the Mistweaver, that's all you're really getting. You've got target cap on Spinning Crane Kick. Fortifying Brew is slightly less powerful. You also have an extra yard on the range of Leg Sweep, and then a couple of little mana tweaks to your spells. Like, I think Enveloping Mist heals for more, but it's more expensive. Renewing Mist is more mana efficient, for already your most mana efficient spell, I believe. A couple of little tweaks like that, but yeah, that's most of the baseline stuff. For talents then, for the talents, we have a couple of changes that are very much tied into the fist weaving idea here. The fist weaving idea. Healing by doing damage. So all this stuff here at the start is the same. Where it gets different is obviously down here. This is where Invoke Yu'lon used to be. It's now gone. This is now Invoke Chi-Chi, the Red Crane. This replaces Yu'lon, the Jade Serpent, the 3-minute cooldown of her zipping around and healing people automatically, with Invoke Chi-Chi. Summon an effigy of Chi-Chi, the Red Crane, for 25 seconds. Chi-Chi causes you to become immune to all movement impairing effects and increases your physical damage by 25%. On top of that, doing physical damage causes Chi-Chi to heal 3 nearby allies for 150% of all damage done. So yeah, this becomes a very potent healing cooldown. You'll actually see me running this in Rising Mist in the dungeon footage at the end if you want to check it out and see how it feels. But yeah, this is a really nice one. It's obviously, and this is actually still here, by the way. I don't think the PvP talents have been done for the monk at all. It was the same with Windwalker. We looked at them and they were like still wrong. So this is obviously based off your Wave the Crane thing. Wave the Crane, of course, it says that Invoke Chi-Chi doesn't have a mana cost. I believe it does. It certainly does. It also has a 2-minute cooldown. But yeah, you're going to be doing like with Chi-Chi, you can see I'm just going to be doing some nice damage. I'll obviously use my my Thunder Focus Tea during Chi-Chi to get another reset and Rising Sun Kick. And especially in AoE, where you can Spinning Crane Kick on a numerous mobs, like with 6 mobs, Spinning Crane Kick is going to do tons of damage, and that's going to do tons of healing for your party. This is awesome. You know, it's a really fun healing cooldown. Also, I don't think that was that? Yeah, I guess that was 25 seconds. It felt short, but I mean, there you are. So that's Invoke Chi-Chi. It's an option to replace Invoke Yu'lon. It's certainly a lot more involved. There's a lot more gameplay in there than with Yu'lon. Again, based off Wave the Crane. I have no idea what happens if you try to use both of these at the same time. That might be kind of funny, but yeah, there you are. Then finally, Rising Mist. Rising Mist has been tweaked a bit again. So this is a passive where your Rising Sun Kick will heal all allies with your Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, or Essence Font for 155. So it heals for slightly less than it did before, but it will extend the duration of those effects by 4 seconds. It can go up to 100% of their original duration. So you can extend a Renewing Mist, in theory, an additional 20 seconds. In particular, the 4 seconds extra on Enveloping Mist is a very big deal because that's a 6-second heal over time, and the heal over time is increasing all the healing received from your spells by 30%. Well, if you increase that by 4 seconds, that's really good. So that's very potent. Again, you can get that up to 6 additional seconds, or Essence Font, the same thing with that. So lots of plays that you can make with Healing Mist. I think that this was 4 seconds on BFA for most of it. Then with so much, when people got enough haste, they could essentially get infinite Enveloping Mists on most of their party, most of their raid, in fact, and it was crazy overpowered. So they had to nerf it down to 2 seconds, I think, on live. They're now bringing it back as a 4-second increase in Shadowlands. Obviously, you won't have enough haste at the start of the expansion, but they've also capped it to 100% original duration. So I think this is good. This is a good incarnation of the talents. It feels rewarding. Again, if you time your Rising Sun Kicks, and in particular your resets at Thunder Focus Tea, around, you know, your Essence Font casts, or around your around Enveloping Mist, you can get a lot of healing out of it. And yeah, it kind of rewards really good play. I mean, the Renewing Mist just sort of happens, but using the other two, it's good. So yeah, there you go. Some fist weaving stuff. Let's go check out some of the new things then coming in Shadowlands, because there are some of the new Shadowland features, because there are some of those that also tie in to that fist weaving gameplay style. First up, let's take a look at their conduits. Conduits are kind of like little extra perks. You're going to be able to have 4 of these at a time. You should see your soulbind tree in the background. These are what they slot into. You'll unlock the tree as you play through Shadowlands, and you can get an idea there for the sort of path that you could take through the soulbind tree. There are 3 types of conduits: Endurance, which boosts your survivability; Finesse, which boosts your utility; and Potency, which are going to boost your damage or your healing. Let's look at the Endurance ones first. So we have 3 for the Mistweaver at the moment. Fortifying Ingredients. Fortifying Brew will grant you a shield equal to 5% of your health for 15 seconds. This can scale up to 20% of your health for 15 seconds. So not too exciting, it's just an extra little perk. So kind of nice. Next up is Grounding Breath. When you cast Vivify on yourself, its heal is increased by 10%, and it has a chance to refund its cost. That can increase up to 25% extra healing. So this is exceptionally good for the Mistweaver Monk. Again, there's a lot of plays potentially opening up with this. So for example, you could spam Vivifies on yourself if you need healing. While your Renewing Mists are out, bear in mind that those Vivifies are cleaving onto your Renewing Mist targets. So you can get quite a bit of free extra cleave with this one. Save yourself some mana. Obviously, this is going to be insane for PvP. So yeah, a nice conduit there for sure. Next up is Harm Denial. Expel Harm's healing is increased by 20%. That can go up to 35%. And again, presuming that they tune this ability to be something that you do want to use as part of your core rotation, this could be very good for the Mistweaver. You use this during your Soothing Mist. It's going to heal you and your target of Soothing Mist. So this could be a nice conduit if that actually ends up being something that's worth doing. For the finesse conduits, we have 4. First up is Dizzying Tumble. Targets affected by your leg sweep do 5% less damage for 5 seconds. This scales up to 20% less damage. I mean, again, preventing damage is in itself a healing cooldown, so that is a very nice thing to provide in a Mythic Plus situation in particular. Help your tank stay alive, help your party stay alive, so that's a good one. Lingering Numbness then. When paralysis ends, your target's movement speed is reduced by 60% for 5 seconds. That scales up to 90%. This, I think, is a much more PvP-focused conduit, and it's going to be very powerful in PvP. Swift Transference. Transcendence Transfer increases your movement speed by 10%. That scales up to 25%. Not sure how long that lasts. I mean, let's say, hypothetically, it lasts for 10 seconds. I mean, that's a nice movement speed buff. Again, sort of useful in PvE. I think mostly useful in PvP. Could be very strong in PvP. And finally, Tumbling Technique. Blackout Kick has a 5% chance to grant you a charge of roll. So quite nice, actually, this one for the Mistweaver, ironically. I mean, I don't know if you're going to be spamming roll enough to actually use these extra charges, but of course, with the Mistweaver single target rotation, you get out more blackout kicks than any of the other monk specs, actually, because of your ancient teachings or the monastery, whatever. Like, you fire off 4 of these at a time, so this could actually be pretty good for us. I don't know if you'll actually use the charges, though. For your potency conduits, there are 4 for the Mistweaver. Jade Bond is the first one. Abilities that activate Gust of Mist reduce the cooldown on Invoke Yu'lon, the Jade Serpent, by half a second, and Yu'lon Celestial Breath healing is increased by 10%. The additional healing can scale up to 25%. So this one could end up actually being pretty solid, I think. You know, it's relatively straightforward. Yu'lon will be more powerful, you get her more often. I mean, it definitely requires a fairly active healing style. It's not going to work as well with like a fist weaving style. What I'm interested in is, because I'm not sure how it works, I'm very curious to see how this one would interact with the Invoke Chi-Chi talent, in which case this could become very good, because Invoke Chi-Chi is quite potent. Will it increase the amount of healing you do with Invoke Chi-Chi? I'm not sure, and getting cooldown reduction on that could be kind of nice, though again, you'd have potentially a bit of be slightly counterproductive in the sense that you might not be triggering Gust of Mist as a Chi-Chi type healer, as a Fist Weaver, as you would with, you know, just a more normal mist weaving style. So one to keep an eye on. I think it's definitely intriguing, has potential. Next up is Nourishing Chi. Life Cocoon increases healing over time received by an additional 15%, and this bonus lingers for an additional 6 seconds after the shield is broken. That scales up to 30% bonus healing over time. I mean, I guess your Resto Druids will absolutely love you for this one. I mean, it's okay. I'm not sure if it really procs. Like, it's not going to affect our Vivifies. It's not going to affect our Mastery. Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure if it's that super useful. I think, as far as I know, it's only going to affect Renewing Mist and Enveloping Mist, which is fine. I mean, that's kind of good, but this is probably not that groundbreaking, really. It just seems okay, so I don't know, maybe. Rising Sun Revival is the next one. Rising Sun Kick reduces the remaining cooldown of Revival by 1 second, and Revival heals targets for 10% of Revival's heal over 10 seconds. That scales up to 25% of Revival's heal. So, I mean, certainly in a raid situation, this could be okay. I mean, 25% of Revival's healing over 10 seconds, that's a nice little perk, so not too bad. I think the cooldown reduction seems a little bit undertuned to me. Like, if you were very diligent, let's be fair about this, and let's say that you're, you know, it's a fairly tough healing fight, right? So you're gonna be using your Thunder Focus T on like Renewing Mist, and you're gonna be spending most of your time healing. You're not gonna be like Tiger Palm Blackout kicking that much, but you're trying to be diligent, and you are trying to Rising Sun Kick on cooldown. Well, for me in my current gear in the beta, Rising Sun Kick has an 11-second cooldown. So this is going to work out to be just under 5 seconds of cooldown reduction every minute. In other words, you know, 15 seconds off of Revival's 3-minute cooldown. That's pretty underwhelming. Like, I don't really see that having any impact whatsoever. Like, what sort of situation are you going to be in where you need Revival after 2 minutes and 45 seconds compared to after 3 minutes? I'm not particularly seeing it, and also it seems fairly unreliable in that sense to plan something around that. So yeah, this one, I feel like they could easily up it to even like 5 seconds cooldown reduction, and it would feel a bit better. I mean, Revival isn't even that good. So that might be a bit nicer. We'll see what they do. But anyway, that's what it is for now. And finally then, we have Resplendent Mist. Gust of Mist has a 30% chance to do 25% more healing. And that can scale up to 40%. So, I mean, like, 30% of 40% is 10 divided by 4, so it's 12%. So on average, your Mastery is going to do 12% more healing. Relatively straightforward throughput increase. So yeah, not too exciting, but it could end up being decent in the tuning. For the legendary powers for Monk, at the start of Shadowlands, we're going to be able to equip one legendary at a time. There are currently, well, there's supposed to be 4 general Monk legendaries. We're going to look at them now. There's currently only 3. And then there are 4 Mistweaver specific legendaries as well. So for the general Monk legendary powers, we have Fatal Touch. Touch of Death's cooldown is reduced by 60 seconds. I mean, that's kind of a bit of fun. I'm not sure if it's going to be any much use though, but it is a laugh, that's for sure. Next up we have Invoker's Delight. You gain 12% haste for blah 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 until cancelled after summoning your Celestial. So let's presume that this is going to be haste while your Celestial is summoned. I think for Invoke Yu'lon, I mean, there's no synergy there whatsoever. It's just like an extra little bit of a perk. I think if you take the Invoke Chi-Chi talent, this becomes exceptionally strong then. That's where this really starts to shine. I mean, number one, Chi-Chi has a 1 minute shorter cooldown than Yu'lon does, so that's already a win. But then in Chi-Chi, you want to be trying to get out as much damage as you physically can, because that damage you're getting out is healing people. You want that lower cooldown on your Rising Sun kick and blah, blah, blah. So this one could be great with Invoke Chi-Chi. That could feel very rewarding. So this might actually be solid. And then the final general one that we have for now is called Roll Out. Roll has 1 additional charge. This seems almost entirely useful for running old transmog raids and stuff like that. I really don't see this being relevant. Maybe in PvP, but I don't know. Are you going to take this over the other ones? I don't really think so. We'll see. For the Mistweaver legendaries, we have 4. First up, this one is very exciting. Ancient Teachings of the Monastery. Your Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick heal for 120% of the damage done to an injured ally within 20 yards. So this one is very exciting to me. This one is super cool. This is not obviously going to be the main part of your healing. You're still going to have to heal people. But I think this really enables that fist weaving style very much. When you take the Rising Sun kick, you know, that makes this even more valuable. You know, when there's low to moderate, even party-wide damage, you're going to be able to heal quite a lot of it by just throwing out your renewing mists and then fist weaving with this legendary, which I think is awesome. And then obviously in like high damage situations, you're going to be going into your essence fonts, you're going to be spamming your vivifies and really like spending your mana that way. I think though this could contribute to an awesome gameplay style where you're in melee, you know, kick and punch and everything. Again, this works amazing with Invoke Chi-Chi, just makes that even more powerful, more efficient. And yeah, I mean, you could just have that sort of low to moderate damage, you're covering that with your fist weaving, and then like shift up to higher gear and start spending mana like crazy. Like what? That's a super fun way to play. So very excited for this. I really hope this ends up being good. So cool. Next up is Celestial Breath. Activating Thunder Focus T causes you to exhale the breath of Yu'lon, healing up to 6 allies within 15 yards for some spell power over 2 seconds. So, I mean, this is very straightforward. You're pressing Thunder Focus T basically on cooldown. It's just going to do a bit of a heal whenever you press it. Very boring, just more throughput. Meh. Soothing Focus is the third one. Healing with Enveloping Mist or Vivify while channeling Soothing Mist increases their healing done by 15% and reduces their mana cost by 15%. This stacks up to 3 times. When your Soothing Mist channel ends, this effect is cancelled. So this one is very intriguing. It's obviously a big strength of the Mistweaver Monk that very rarely gets used these days. Like, it's just in a raid situation, just the way they've been designing the raids, it just really hasn't been relevant, which is substantial single target healing, substantial single target dots and stuff like that. That hasn't been a very big feature at all really in BFA. If this does come back into Shadowlands though, if they do put in some fights like that or some encounters, this could become very cool. And kind of, again, it's sort of the opposite of the Ancient Teachings of the Monastery, right? Where you want to be just doing your melee stuff as often as possible and not casting. This is very much the opposite, rewarding that really Mistweaver playstyle of doing as much casting as possible and exploiting the whole, you know, heal while you channel thing, which I think is really cool. So yeah, I mean, I think it's nice. Like, there is the concern that it's going to be too much single target healing. Like, you probably just overheal with it. Like, who's going to need that much single target healing? I don't know, but could be awesome in Mythic Plus for like some tank healing, or again, if they do design some fights where this is relevant, this could be super cool. It's definitely one I'm keeping an eye on, because, you know, I love the fist weaving style. I also love the mist weaving style, and I think it'd be nice if you could build around both sort of sides of the spec and have them be strong in different fights, different situations, and feel powerful in each one. That could be really awesome. So very nice. The final one then, this one looks super strong. Uplifting Mist. Your Renewing Mist also applies Extend Life to the initial target, instantly healing them for 50, and increasing all healing done to them by 15% for 12 seconds. When you heal with Enveloping Mist or Vivify, 50% of the heal is also applied to targets with your Extend Life effect. So this seems extremely good. I'm not sure if this is just increasing your healing. If this is increasing everyone's healing, that's going to be pretty damn powerful. It certainly means that you'll choose your Renewing Mist targets, the initial targets, a bit more carefully. Like, mostly it's just probably going to be putting it on the tank, or again, on somebody that's about to do a difficult raid mechanic, perhaps. But yeah, this does sound extremely potent. This sounds like it's really going to do a lot of healing, add a lot of throughput, just a lot of consistent AoE healing. Not a ton of interaction with this, but definitely the appeal is that this just sounds very powerful. So yeah, those are the legendaries. Again, I think there's a couple of interesting ones there. I'm definitely looking at it and going Uplifting Mist seems the strongest. But then I'm looking at Ancient Teachings of the Monastery and thinking, that seems the most fun. That seems like that could be really exciting and enticing. Of course, it doesn't work with Spinning Crane Kick, so it loses some of that, quite a bit of that value in AoE, like compared to Invoke Chi-Ji or the old, whatever, Invoke the Red Crane or whatever it was in BFA. A ton of that value came from healing with Spinning Crane Kick and AoE. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, an interesting set of legendaries, needless to say. And then finally, we have our Monk Covenant abilities. So the first one we have here is the Kyrians. They have their signature ability of Summon Steward. A Steward will bring you a File of Serenity. This is like a health stone. It has 3 charges. You can use 1 per combat. The health stone will heal you for 15% health, and it removes all curses, diseases, poisons, and bleed effects. So, I mean, as a Mistweaver, you can already dispel diseases and poisons, but you obviously can't dispel the other 2, so it's going to be really good when they are there, or if they're going out in AoE on your group. And again, lots of encounters in Shadowlands do seem to apply lots of these effects. It's going to be very useful to be able to dispel somebody else and remove it from yourself with your File of Serenity. So this looks like quite a solid signature ability. The Covenant ability then for the monks is called Weapons of Order. For the next 30 seconds, your mastery is increased by 10%. If you remember, if you were paying attention, you'll notice that this has been nerfed since I did the previous 2 monk videos. That's right, in the current patch, the patch that just came out last night in PTR and is coming out tonight on beta, this has been nerfed. But for Mistweaver, additionally, on top of increasing mastery by 10% for 30 seconds, Essence Font cooldown is reset instantly, and it heals up to 6 nearby allies for 30% spell power, health on channel start, and on channel end. So again, I think this is still going through tuning. This was doing a ton of healing on beta when I was testing it out, like a ton of healing. So it obviously it pulses the AoE heal at the start of Essence Font, and then it pulses it at the end as well. When I was testing this, each pulse did more healing than Revival did. This was insanely good. So they've obviously added a target cap since then. I'm not sure if they have reduced the amount healed, but nonetheless, I think this is a very attractive Covenant ability. It's on a 2-minute cooldown as well. If we take a quick look, though, first, before I talk about it, at the conduit that goes with it, there's a potency conduit you can take to enhance it. This is called Strike with Clarity. Weapon of Order's duration is increased by 5 seconds, and the mastery bonus is increased by 5%, scaling up to 20%. So this is, I think this is a phenomenal Covenant ability for the monks. Like, this is so damn good. Like, with that conduit, it's gonna last 35 seconds. Now, okay, Essence Font has like a 12-second cooldown, right? So you could cast 3 in 36 seconds. It's only gonna last 35 seconds with the conduit, so you're not gonna get the 4 casts out. You're gonna be able to get like you'll be able to get 1 out instantly, 1 12 seconds in, 1 24 seconds in. So you get 3 casts, which means you get 6 of those AoE healing pulses. So that's going to give you a lot of throughput. You know, you're basically going 2-minute cooldown, and this is why it's so good. It's because the Mistweaver Monk cooldowns are fairly weak, apart from Chi-Chi, but Revival's underwhelming, Invoke Yu'lon is relatively underwhelming, so it's really nice to have a big 2-minute cooldown that just lets you pump healing. Like, you pump healing. Big burst of healing out of those Essence Fonts, and again, 30% mastery, you're going to be able to spam out a lot more healing. So, a very intriguing one. What instantly jumps out to me about this, what instantly jumps out, is I'm looking at this and going, how cool could this be with the Fist Weaving Legendary, right? And with Fist Weaving talents, and invoke, obviously taking invoke Chi-Ji, and then you're going, I've got invoke Chi-Ji, which is a 2-minute cooldown. I can go into my big fist weaving rotation and automatically heal people. Awesome stuff. And then I'm going to just be doing like low healing as well by doing my fist weaving, you know, extending my hots on people, and just getting that. The legendary is going to help prop people up. That's going to be okay. But then I have this as well. So, okay, we're going into a really tough healing check. It's a really tough part of the raid fight, or it's a, you know, a really tough part of this mythic dungeon. Well, I've been fairly efficient with my mana through fist weaving, but now it's time to pump. Weapons of Order, let's go. Churning out the Essence Fonts, churning out the Vivify, and just spend. Cool. I think that's so fun. That could be so fun for Mistweaver to play around your first cooldown of Chi-Ji, then this cooldown for spending your mana and doing all of that, and then kind of going into that low downtime part for the other section of the fight where you're relying on fist weaving to keep people up. How cool is that? Man, I am so excited for the potential of this. Next up, we have the Venthyrs. Their signature ability is Door of Shadows. When through the shadows appearing at the targeted location, this has a 1-minute cooldown, 1.5-second cast, and 35-yard range. So it's a point-and-click teleport. Obviously very useful. You can dodge stuff in fights, gives you some nice mobility. Potentially could enable some Mythic Plus skips, so this one's looking quite strong. And then Fallen Order is the Covenant ability for monks. You open a mirror for 24 seconds, summoning reflections of your order's fallen ox, crane, and tiger adepts. I believe it summons like 11 total, 6 being from your style, and 5 being from the other, randomly. So there's Monks of the Ox style, they do Breath of Fire, and I think they do Keg Smash as well. Monks of the Crane style, they're going to heal with Enveloping Mists, and Monks of the Tiger style, who are going to do Fist of Fury. So this one is fairly boring. You know, it's a 3-minute cooldown as well, so it's a big 3-minute cooldown. You press the button, they're going to come out and they're going to do healing. I definitely feel like you can make a very, very boring Mistweaver playstyle. You can make a very boring Mistweaver playstyle where you've got Invoke Yu'lon, which is a 3-minute button. You press it, and then Yu'lon's just going to run around and heal, and there's really nothing that you do to interact with it. And then you also have Fallen Order, which is a 3-minute cooldown. You press the button, they come out for 24 seconds, they're going to heal, and there's really nothing that you have to do with it. And I mean, you can even take Upwelling then, which hopefully won't be the meta pick once again, but take Upwelling at the final talent tier, and then, you know, AoE damage. Well, press my buttons and I'll just channel Essence Font for 6 seconds straight. You can have a very uninteractive spec with this, I think. The Conduit is Imbued Reflections. Fallen Order monks deal 20% more damage and healing. That scales up to 50%. So yeah, that makes the cooldown even more powerful. Doesn't make it any more interactive though. So you'll either love this or you'll hate this. Personally, it's not for me, but maybe you like it. So there you are. Next up, we have the Necrolords. Their signature ability is called Fleshcraft. It's a 2-minute cooldown. You channel for 4 seconds to form a shield of flesh and bone that prevents damage equal to 20% of your maximum health. If you channel it near corpses, it gets more powerful. It can go up to 50% of your maximum health as a shield. So that's obviously very nice. You can use this between pulls and Mythic Plus. The shield persists for 2 minutes, which is a long time, so that's pretty fantastic. I'm sure you could use it to do some soaking in raids as well. You're super mobile and already very tanky as a Mistweaver Monk, so you're a good person to take up the task and do some of that stuff. So you might find some very creative uses for this. I think it's pretty good. The Necrolord ability for the monks is Bone Dust Brew. Hurl a brew created from the bones of your enemies at the ground, coating all targets struck for 10 seconds. Your abilities have a 15% chance to affect the target a second time at 25% effectiveness as shadow damage or as healing. And for the Mistweavers, your Mastery Gust of Mist will heal targets with your Bone Dust Brew active for an additional chunk. This has a 1-minute cooldown, 40-yard range, is instant cast. I'm really not a fan of this at all for the Mistweaver. I think it's going to be fairly awkward to use. You want to be hitting this on your allies, right? You want to be hitting this on your allies. I think it's going to be relatively awkward to have people stacked up enough to actually get value out of this. I feel like that's just going to be sort of a source of frustration. Okay, I guess in raids you can drop it on the melee group, or maybe you can communicate with your party and get them to group up more in Mythic Plus, but this just seems like a little bit of a hassle. And obviously it requires you to be actually healing pretty intensively, like you want to be spamming Vivifies during this to get that mastery bonus. Otherwise, you know, if you're fist weaving, for example, that mastery bonus might as well not exist. And also the additional healing, it's such a low chance to proc at low effectiveness. I don't see it doing all that much. The potency conduit for this, though, is Bone Marrow Hops. Bone Brew shadow damage or healing is increased by 20%, and when Bone Brew deals shadow damage or healing, it reduces its cooldown by half a second. That goes up to 50% bonus healing for us, really. So I don't know, like maybe it could be okay. Certainly it's a very low cooldown, which might be appealing. You might want that sort of extra throughput on a lower cooldown. Maybe. This doesn't seem all that great to me, though. Maybe once I get to try it out in practice, it will end up being better. But yeah, not too excited. Then the final Covenant we have here is the Night Fae. Their signature ability is called Soul Shape. Turn into a Vulpin, teleporting 15 yards forward and increasing your movement speed by 50%. You can reactivate Soul Shape as an ability called Flicker about every 4 seconds to teleport again. This lasts for 12 seconds and has a 1.5 minute cooldown. So a very, very big movement ability. Could be kind of useful. I think we already have tons of movement as a monk. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly in niche situations, it could be pretty nice. You can think of places where you might use this. For the Covenant ability for the monks then, it's called Feline Stomp. You strike the ground fiercely to expose a Feline for 30 seconds, doing 60% of attack power as nature damage, and for the Mistweaver, healing allies with an Essence Font Bolt. Your abilities as well, while you are on the Feline, have a chance to reset the cooldown. The Conduit, to show you for this one, is purely damage based. This makes Feline Stomp do an additional 10% damage per target, up to a maximum of 50% additional damage. So this one is certainly interesting. This is definitely a very good AoE damage dealer. This is all about AoE damage. And of course, you know, sending out those extra Essence Font bolts is nice. You know, that certainly helps with your mastery, because the Essence Font hot procs your mastery twice. It certainly also, I think, interacts fairly well with the Fist Weaving playstyle, right? Because if you're taking Rising Mist and your final talent here, Rising Sun Kick extends the duration of the Essence Font heal over time, so you will get some benefit from that. And of course, you know, it sort of naturally fits into the Fist Weaving rotation as because it's a damage ability. It's gonna feel good. It's gonna feel like it fits in. It looks awesome as well. I feel like it's going to be quite a bit weaker in a raid situation, and it's obviously much weaker in any single target situations. So it's an intriguing one for sure. You know, this is one where you're going, okay, do I want like a very short cooldown ability that's going to do really good AoE damage, like solid AoE damage, be a solid contribution, and that's going to reset quite often? I definitely could think of situations, like definitely for like pushing Mythic Plus and stuff, that's going to be quite appealing, but for more smaller encounters, for single target encounters, not so much. So it's up to you whether you think that's worthwhile. And there you go, guys. That's all the different pieces, all the different parts of the Mistweaver Monk on Shadowlands, on the Shadowlands beta. How's it looking? How's the spec playing? So the spec hasn't changed overly much from BFA, but I think that the changes that are there are very positive, and there's a few changes in particular that have gotten me actually fairly hyped to play the Mistweaver. You know, I think that the Mistweaver at its core, it's a solid healing spec. You know, like I said when I was describing the sort of the core gameplay, it's quite simple, it's quite straightforward. I definitely felt like one of the downsides, because I did play Mistweaver, like I healed some of Mythical Deer as a Mistweaver, for example, and definitely the thing that sort of put me off was that it did feel sometimes like the spec lacked a little bit of complexity, like it sort of played itself, you know, especially with the upwelling talent at the final talent row. You know, AoE damage comes out, what do? I press Essence Font, I channel Essence Font for 6 seconds, and then you sort of, you know, you throw out your Vivifies afterwards, but for the most part, you know, you're just throwing your Renewing Mists on cooldown, you're spot healing people with Vivify as they need to, you Essence Font when there's AoE damage. It's very simple, and it felt satisfying, but it could feel a little underwhelming. I certainly think that when you start adding Fist Weaving stuff in there, though, that's where the spec becomes a lot more fun, at least to me. And I definitely think in Mythic Plus situations is where this really starts to shine, you know, where Paralysis starts to come into it. You got your Ring of Peace, you have your AoE stun, Life Cocoon is more potent in a dungeon setting. You're obviously bringing the Mystic Touch as well to enhance the physical damage dealers in your party. In those situations, I actually think the Mistweaver really starts to shine and starts to feel really good as a very mobile, very tanky healing spec, which has the ability, which is very, very nice, to just like pump healing. Like you could just burn through your mana so fast as a Mistweaver, just melt through it and really churn out the healing, and that feels good. Like I said, I'm excited for some of the Shadowlands editions. In particular, I'm loving the look. Loving the Weapons of Order Covenant. This is, I think, looks like to be one of the most fun Covenant abilities. I think for the Mistweaver, Weapons of Order, wow, just fantastic. You know, one of the big weaknesses, especially for raiding, and this does a tie-in to why they haven't been all that competitive as Raiders and Mythic in BFA, is that their cooldowns, their healing cooldowns are very meh. Like, you just had Revival. That was all you had for BFA. Like, it's so underwhelming compared to, you know, compared to a Holy Paladin who's bringing Devotion Aura and who's bringing Wings, compared to, you know, Disc Priest with Barrier and Evangelism and all this. Like, they just did so much more. Mistweaver really felt lacking there. It's already improved with getting Invoke Yu'lon baseline, although it is a relatively boring cooldown in and of itself, but it's still nice to at least have something else instead of just Revival. But Weapons of Order, wow. 2-minute cooldown, 30-second buff, get tons of mastery, so your heals just do way more. Really good for just spending lots of mana there and pumping, and then giving you that Essence Font reset, and just pumping a ton of healing out to 6 targets whenever you Essence Font at the beginning and at the end. Is making your Essence Fonts super valuable, encouraging those shorter Essence Fonts. I think that's so awesome. I'm just very, very excited by the possibility of picking up the Fist Weaving Legendary, going for those Fist Weaving Talons, and having that really interesting flow where you kind of have like all these different moments in your gameplay where you've got the sort of, I'm not popping any cooldowns, it's just sort of low healing, and I'm going in, I'm doing damage. I'm Fist Weaving, keeping some hots rolling on the party, and my Fist Weaving is sort of carrying some low healing, some low to moderate healing. And then popping Invoke GG, which is much more exciting to me than Invoke Yu'lon, where, okay, now my damage and the damage I do is doing a lot of healing, so a big throughput cooldown in Invoke GG, that's very satisfying. And then having Weapons of Order, where now I'm going into my Mistweaver, my caster mode, and I'm just churning out my casts. I'm going to burn through that mana for these 30 seconds and just pump healing, like super hardcore pump. I just feel like kind of alternating between those different things, choosing what fights in Mythic Plus, like choosing when to use each of those. In the raid, planning which one to use for each type of damage, working that with your team. I think that is why, to me, Mistweaver is looking really good in Shadowlands, because that is so much more interesting. That's such a big upgrade. Even though it's only a couple of abilities, it's only a couple of things, and it might seem kind of small at first. But when you compare that to BFA, where raiding is a Mistweaver, I'm going, okay, well, I'll just Essence Font whenever there's damage, and I guess I'll Revival once or twice in the fight where I'm told to. It doesn't do that much. I'll just do it, though, and I'll sort of just do some core rotation stuff. Like, that is such a much more bland playstyle to, I think, what these new cooldowns coming in open up the potential for in Shadowlands. So, yeah, we'll see, but my initial impressions were good. I did feel like, you know, it's definitely a somewhat slow spec in melee compared to, you know, compared to those faster melee specs that have shorter GCDs. Mistweaver is a little bit slower, a little bit simple, but it has a nice rhythm to it. It has a nice rhythm to it. So yeah, I think this one's looking good. I was actually quite impressed by what I saw here. So yeah, when I looked at it first, I thought not many changes. When I actually tested them out, when I actually saw them, really good stuff. So, I mean, the only downside is that this does sort of push you a little bit towards the Kyrians. I think it gets a lot less interesting if you don't take the Weapons of Order with the Kyrians. I think the other Covenants, not so good. But there you are. That's my thoughts on that. Maybe Night Fae could work well. Feyline Stomp, that could be very satisfying in Mythic Plus, like big damage contribution. Anyway, that's enough blabbing. Mistweaver looks solid, I think. The Monk specs, in fact, all look solid. So there you are. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Your actions are easy to anticipate.